The moon was gray and lifeless. No air, no water. Just endless fields of dust and rock under a black sky filled with stars. The eternal dawn landed on a flat plain near a cluster of tall rock formations. Through the windows, the crew could see the dragon fleet hovering in orbit above them. The massive ships blocked out some of the stars. Captain Hyun stood in the airlock with 5 others. Day was there, and he held Mira's hand tightly. The child wore a small spacesuit made just for her. Through her helmet, she smiled at everyone. Next to them stood Yuna, the ship's lead scientist. She carried several scanning devices. 2 security officers completed the group, though Hyun had ordered them not to show weapons. "We do not know what will happen out there," Hyun said quietly. "Stay close, stay calm. If anything goes wrong, run back to the ship." "Will the dragon hurt us?" Mira asked. Her voice came through the helmet speaker, small and curious. Day squeezed her hand. "I will not let anything hurt you." "He will not hurt us," Mira said with confidence. "He is sad, not mean." Hyun hoped the child was right. The airlock door opened with a hiss. They stepped out onto the moon's surface. The dust was soft under their boots. Each step left a deep print. Above them, a shape moved across the stars. A dragon shuttle descended. It was smaller than the warships, but still huge. It landed 50 meters away with barely a sound. A ramp extended from its side. Then he appeared. Vextar walked down the ramp on 4 legs. His body was even more massive in person. Each of his legs was as thick as a tree trunk. His wings were folded against his back, but Hyun could see they would span at least 30 meters if opened. The dragon's red scales caught the starlight and seemed to glow. His 3 eyes focused on the small group of humans. Behind him came 3 other dragons. They were smaller and stayed back. Their eyes watched the humans with clear suspicion. One of them, a blue-scaled female, growled something in the clicking dragon language. Vextar stopped 10 meters from the humans. Up close, he was terrifying. His teeth were longer than Mira was tall. His claws dug into the moon dust like it was soft snow. Smoke drifted from his nostrils with each breath, but he moved slowly, carefully, like someone trying not to scare a small animal. "Captain Hyun," Vextar said. His voice rumbled through the radio system in their helmets. "You came. We said we would," Hyun replied. He tried to keep his voice steady. Vextar's 3 eyes moved to Mira. The child had let go of her father's hand. She walked forward, her small boots kicking up puffs of dust. Day reached for her, but Hyun stopped him with a hand on his arm. "Mira," Vextar said softly, "you are even smaller than I thought." "You are even bigger," Mira said, tilting her head back to look up at him. "Can I touch you?" "For real this time?" the other dragons hissed. The blue female stepped forward, but Vextar raised one massive claw. She stopped. He lowered his enormous head down, down until his snout was level with the child. His breath fogged her helmet with each exhale. His scales were so close she could see every detail. Ancient scars, marks from old battles. Mira reached up with both hands. She placed her gloved palms against his snout. Her hands were so small they barely covered one scale. She patted him gently like she would pet a dog. "Your skin is warm," she said. "I thought it would be cold like a lizard." Vextar made a sound. It took Hyun a moment to realize the dragon was crying. Not with tears. Dragons did not have tears. But the sound was unmistakable. A deep rumbling sob that shook the ground beneath their feet. "We were not always conquerors," Vextar said, his voice thick with emotion. "Once my people were peaceful. We built cities. We studied the stars. We raised our young with love and songs." He lifted his head slowly. Mira's hand slipped away. She stayed standing there, looking up at him. "Then the plague came," Vextar continued, "a sickness that killed slowly. It took our children first. My daughter," his voice broke. "My daughter was small like you, Mira. She loved to hear stories. She would climb on my back and pretend to fly." "What happened to her?" Mira asked gently. "The plague took her. Took them all. Millions of our children died. The sickness spread to the adults next. We needed medicine, resources. Other worlds had what we needed, but they would not help us. They feared the plague would spread to them. So we took what we needed by force." Day had moved forward now, standing behind his daughter. He listened with wide eyes. Yuna was recording everything on her devices. "We became conquerors to survive," Vextar said. "And then we just stayed that way for 3,000 years. We forgot how to be anything else." Every species we met showed us fear, hatred, they saw monsters. And so we became monsters. But you are not a monster, Mira said firmly. Monsters do not cry. Vextar was silent for a long moment. Then he did something that made the other dragons gasp. He lowered himself down, pressing his massive body against the moon dust. His head bowed until his horns touched the ground. It was the position of submission, of surrender. I have not bowed to anyone in 3,000 years, Vextar said. But I bowed to you, small Mira. You saw past the monster. You saw the pain. You reminded me that I was someone else once, someone who loved and was loved. The blue dragon rushed forward. She spoke rapidly in the clicking language. Vextar responded without lifting his head. His tone was firm. The blue dragon backed away, her head lowered. Yuna stepped forward carefully. Commander Vextar, may I ask about the plague? Does it still affect your people? Yes, Vextar said. He finally lifted his head and stood again. It is slow now. Takes decades instead of days. But it is always there, always killing us. We cannot have children anymore. Each dragon you see is centuries old. When we die, there will be no more. Can we see your medical records? Yuna asked. Her voice shook with excitement. Our species has survived many plagues. Perhaps we can help. The other dragons laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. The blue one spoke and Vextar translated. Commander Kira says that thousands of species have tried to cure us. All have failed. She thinks you are naive to offer. Maybe, Yuna said, but we would like to try. What do you have to lose? Vextar looked at Mira again. The child waved at him. He made that grinding laugh sound again. Nothing, he said. I have nothing left to lose. If the small one's people wish to try, they may. I will send you all our data, our samples, everything we have. Thank you, Hyun said. We will do everything we can. Do not thank me yet, Vextar replied. If you fail, it changes nothing. If you succeed, he paused. If you succeed, it changes everything. The meeting ended soon after. As the humans walked back to their ship, Mira turned and waved at Vextar one more time. The massive dragon raised one claw in response, a simple gesture. But it felt like a promise. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Yuna immediately went to work on the data Vextar had sent. The files were enormous, centuries of research, millions of failed attempts at a cure. She read through the night and the next day and the day after that. Captain Hyun watched her work. He saw the determination in her eyes. She had found something. He could tell. Something that gave her hope. And somewhere in orbit, Vextar sat in his command chamber. For the first time in 3,000 years, he allowed himself to feel something he thought was dead. Hope. Given to him by a child who saw him not as a monster, but as someone who was simply very, very sad. Dr. Yuna had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red and tired, but they were also bright with excitement. She stood in the medical laboratory, surrounded by screens showing genetic sequences and molecular structures. Around her, other scientists worked at their stations. The room hummed with quiet energy. Captain, Yuna called through her communication device. You need to see this. Hyun arrived within minutes. He found Yuna pointing at a large screen. The image showed something that looked like a twisted rope made of light. A genetic structure. This is the plague, Yuna said. It is not natural. Someone made it, Hyun frowned. Made it, you mean as a weapon? Yes. The dragon records mention an ancient enemy species that went extinct 2,000 years ago. Before they died out, they created this pathogen. They designed it specifically to attack dragon biology. It hides in their genetic code and destroys them slowly from the inside. Can we cure it? Hyun asked. Yuna turned to face him. A smile spread across her tired face. I think so. You see, humans have something special. Our immune system. Earth was not a kind planet. We survived plague after plague. Black Death, influenza, coronaviruses, Ebola. Our bodies learned to fight diseases that would kill most species. So our immune system can fight the dragon plague? Hyun asked, hope rising in his chest. Not exactly, Yuna said, but I can modify human antibodies, change them to recognize the dragon pathogen, then synthesize them in large quantities. It is similar to how we created vaccines on Earth, but more complex, much more complex. How long will it take? Yuna looked at her team. They nodded back at her. Give me 2 weeks. Maybe 3. We will need volunteers from the Dragon Fleet, living samples, and we will need Vextar's permission to test on his crew. I will contact him, Hyun said. The next day, another meeting was arranged on the moon. This time, Yuna led the human delegation. She brought holographic displays and sample containers. Vextar came with Commander Kira and 6 other dragons. They all looked skeptical, but Mira came too. She had asked her father to bring her. When Vextar saw her, his 3 eyes brightened. He lowered his head in greeting. "Hello, small friend," he rumbled. "Hello, Vextar," Mira said cheerfully. "I brought you something." She held up a piece of paper. On it was a drawing done in bright crayons. It showed a little girl and a big dragon under a smiling sun. Vextar carefully took the paper with one claw. He held it gently like it was made of glass. "Thank you. I will keep this." Kira made a snorting sound. "We are here for science, not art. Art matters," Vextar said quietly. "We forgot that. Perhaps that is part of why we got lost." Yuna began her presentation. She showed them the genetic analysis, explained how human antibodies worked, described her proposed treatment. The dragons listened, but their body language showed doubt. They had heard similar promises before. All had failed, and if this fails like all the others, Kira demanded. "Why should we believe tiny humans can succeed where entire civilizations failed?" "Because we do not give up," Yuna said simply. "On Earth, we faced extinction many times, disease, war, climate disasters. We survived because we kept trying. Even when it seemed hopeless, we kept trying." She pulled out a vial. Inside was a clear liquid. "This is my first attempt. Modified human antibodies designed to attack your plague. It is not perfect yet. It needs testing, refinement, but I believe it will work. Let me try, please." The dragons looked at each other. They spoke in their clicking language. The discussion grew heated. Some dragons wanted to reject the offer. Others seemed curious. Finally, Vextar silenced them all with a roar. "I will be the test subject," he announced. "Commander, no," Kira protested. "If something goes wrong, then I die," Vextar said. "I am old. Older than most of our kind. If there is even a small chance this works, it is worth the risk. Give me the treatment, Dr. Yuna." Over the next 2 weeks, Yuna worked day and night. Vextar came to the Eternal Dawn every day. He barely fit in the medical bay. His massive body took up most of the room. But he was patient as Yuna took samples, ran tests, adjusted formulas. Mira visited him during these sessions. She would sit on the floor and tell him stories. Tales from Earth, about knights and princesses, about heroes and adventures. Vextar listened to every word. Sometimes he would tell her stories too. About his world. About flying through crystal canyons. About cities that sang at dawn. "You would have liked my daughter," Vextar said one day. "She loved stories too." "What was her name?" Mira asked. "Her name?" Vextar paused. His 3 eyes grew distant. "I had not spoken her name in 3,000 years. Her name was Sira." "That is a beautiful name," Mira said softly. "Yes, it was." On the 18th day, Yuna called everyone to the medical bay. Her hands shook as she held up a scanner. She ran it over Vextar's body. The screen showed genetic sequences, molecular structures, pathogen levels, the plague markers, Yuna whispered. "They are gone. Completely gone." Silence filled the room. Then Vextar made a sound. It started as a rumble deep in his chest. Then it grew. Louder. Stronger. It was not a roar of anger or pain. It was something else. Something that had not been heard from a dragon in centuries. It was joy. The massive dragon began to cry. This time, real tears fell from his 3 eyes. They were like small waterfalls splashing on the medical bay floor. His whole body shook with sobs. "I am healed," he whispered. "After 3,000 years, I am healed." Mira walked up to him. She was so small next to his massive head. She reached up and patted his snout again. "I told you we would help." Vextar lowered himself down again, down to the floor. His head touched the ground. His wings spread wide and then folded in a gesture of complete submission. "Humanity," he said, his voice carrying through the ship's communication system so all could hear. "You have given us back our lives. You have cured the plague that made us monsters. From this day forward, you are sacred, protected. Any who threaten you threaten us. Any who harm you will face the full fury of our fleet." He lifted his head and looked at Mira. "And you, small one. You saw what no one else saw. You gave kindness when we deserved only fear. You are the first friend I have had in longer than I can remember." Mira smiled. "Friends help friends. That is what my daddy says." "Yes," Vextar said. "Yes, they do. Within days, every dragon in the fleet received the treatment. One by one they were cured. One by one they wept with relief and joy. And one by one they bowed to the humans who had saved them. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The feared Crimson Fleet, the unstoppable conquerors, they had been cured by a species that had just entered space, by a people who showed them not weapons but compassion. And it all started because a small child named Mira touched a dragon's muzzle and asked if he was sad. The colony ship Eternal Dawn moved slowly through the dark space. Captain Hyun sat in his command chair and watched the stars on the main screen. His hands rested on the armrests, calm but ready. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations. The ship carried 3,000 people, families, children, scientists, engineers. They were looking for a new home among the stars. Hyun had been awake for 16 hours. His eyes felt heavy, but he could not rest yet. They were passing through an unknown sector. The long-range sensors showed strange readings ahead. Something big. Something moving. "Captain," the sensor officer called out. Her voice shook a little. "We have a contact. It is massive. Larger than anything in our database." Hyun leaned forward. "Show me." The screen changed. A ship appeared in the image. No, not a ship, a fleet. Dozens of massive vessels hung in space like sleeping giants. Each one was 10 times the size of the Eternal Dawn. Their hulls were dark red and black. Strange symbols covered their surfaces. They looked ancient and powerful. The communications officer turned in her seat. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission. Audio and visual." "Put it on screen," Hyun said. He stood up from his chair. His heart beat faster, but his face stayed calm. The crew needed to see him strong. The screen filled with an image that made several crew members gasp. A creature stared at them. It looked like the old dragons from Earth legends, but real. Its head was enormous, covered in dark red scales that seemed to glow in the dim light. 3 eyes watched them. 2 were positioned like human eyes, but a third sat in the center of its forehead. Each eye was bright yellow, like burning suns. Long horns curved back from its skull. Smoke drifted from its nostrils. The dragon spoke. Its voice was deep and rumbling, like thunder rolling across mountains. "I am Vextar, commander of the Crimson Fleet. You have entered our territory. You will surrender your vessel. Your people will serve us. Resistance means death." The bridge went silent. Hyun felt the weight of 3,000 lives on his shoulders. He looked at the dragon on the screen. He saw power there, age and something else. Something tired. "We are peaceful explorers," Hyun said, keeping his voice steady. "We carry families, children. We mean no harm. We only seek a new home." Vextar's 3 eyes narrowed. "All species say this. All species lie. You will surrender or be destroyed." Before Hyun could respond, the bridge door opened with a soft hiss. A small figure walked in. Mira, the 8-year-old daughter of Chief Engineer Day, stepped onto the bridge. She wore a blue jumpsuit that was too big for her. Her black hair was tied in 2 small ponytails. She carried a stuffed bear under one arm. "Mira," Day called from his engineering station. "You should be in your quarters." But Mira did not listen. She walked past the crew stations, her small shoes making soft sounds on the floor. Her eyes were fixed on the screen. On the dragon. She stopped in front of the main display and looked up at Vextar's enormous face. Everyone froze. The dragon stared down at the small human child. Mira reached up with one hand as if she could touch the holographic projection. Her fingers stretched toward the dragon's massive snout. "You look sad," Mira said. Her voice was soft but clear in the silent bridge. The transmission went completely quiet. Vextar's 3 eyes went wide. His mouth opened slightly, showing rows of teeth like white knives. But he made no sound. He just stared at the child. Day moved to grab his daughter, but Captain Hyun raised a hand to stop him. Something strange was happening. "Something important. Are you sick?" Mira asked. She tilted her head to the side. "My daddy says that sometimes people look angry when they are really just hurting inside." "Do you hurt inside?" Vextar's scales seemed to ripple. One of his massive claws moved into view on the screen. It was as long as Mira was tall. The claw had sharp points that could tear through metal, but it moved slowly, gently toward the child's image on his own screen. Finally, Vextar spoke. His voice was different now, quieter. "What is your name, small one?" "Mira," she said with a smile. "What is your name?" "I am Vextar," the dragon replied. He was silent for a moment. Then he said something that shocked everyone on the bridge. "I am very old, Mira. Older than your world, perhaps. And yes, I am sad. I have been sad for a very long time. Behind Vextar, other dragons appeared on the screen. They looked confused. One of them, a smaller dragon with blue scales, spoke in a harsh, clicking language. Vextar responded without looking away from Mira. His tone was sharp. The other dragons backed away. "Can I help you feel better?" Mira asked. "When I am sad, my daddy gives me hugs. But you are very big. I do not think I can hug you." Something that might have been a laugh rumbled from Vextar's chest. It was a strange sound, like rocks grinding together, but there was warmth in it too. "No, small Mira, I do not think you can hug me, but—" He paused. His three eyes blinked one after another. "But perhaps we can talk. Would you like that?" Mira nodded eagerly. "Yes, I like talking. I can tell you stories. I know lots of stories." Vextar was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke to Captain Hyun, though his eyes stayed on Mira. "Human Captain, I am withdrawing my fleet. You will not be harmed. But I wish to meet with you. A physical meeting. On the moon orbiting the fourth planet in this system. In 3 days. Will you come?" Hyun looked at his crew. They looked back at him with wide eyes. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. This was not how wars were supposed to end before they began. He looked at Mira, who smiled up at the dragon like he was just a new friend at a playground. "We will come," Hyun said finally. "Good," Vextar said. "Until then, small Mira, thank you." "For what?" Mira asked. "For seeing me," the dragon said softly. Then the transmission ended. The bridge stayed silent for several seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. But Captain Hyun just watched as Day scooped up his daughter. Mira waved at the now empty screen. Something had changed in that moment. Something important. The most feared fleet in the galaxy had withdrawn because a child asked if they were sad. Hyun did not understand it yet, but he knew that nothing would be the same after this day. 3 days. Then they would learn what a dragon really was, and what a human child had started with just a few simple words. The galactic news networks could talk about nothing else. Images of dragons bowing to humans played on every screen in every system. The Crimson Fleet, feared for 3 millennia, had disbanded their military structure. Species that had suffered under dragon conquest watched in shock and disbelief. In the capital city of the Galactic Council, emergency meetings were called. The council chamber was a massive dome that could hold representatives from 500 species. Today it was completely full. Everyone wanted to discuss the humans. Commander June stood in the center of the chamber. He was young for a diplomat, only 32 years old. He wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Around him, thousands of alien eyes watched. Some looked curious. Others looked afraid. Many looked angry. A tall, thin alien with purple skin stood and pointed at June. "What have you done? The dragons were contained through fear. Now you have made them powerful and grateful. They could destroy us all if they wished." "We saved them," June replied calmly. "They were dying. We helped them live. Is that not what civilized species do?" "They conquered my world," another delegate shouted. "Killed millions of my people." "And you cured them? You should have let them die." Before June could respond, the chamber doors opened. A hush fell over the crowd. Vextar entered. His massive body barely fit through the entrance. He had to fold his wings tightly against his sides. Behind him came Commander Kira and 5 other dragons. The delegates scrambled back. Some ran for the exits. Security forces raised their weapons, but Vextar simply walked to the center of the chamber and stopped next to June. Then he did something that made the entire galaxy stop breathing. He bowed. Not just his head. His entire body lowered to the ground in complete submission. The other dragons did the same. "I am Vextar," his voice rumbled through the translation system. "For 3,000 years I brought pain to this galaxy. I conquered, I killed, I destroyed. I did these things because I was dying, and fear makes monsters of us all." He lifted his head to look around the chamber, but humans showed me something I had forgotten. They showed me mercy, compassion. When they could have destroyed us in our weakness, they healed us instead. They did not ask for payment. They did not demand we serve them. They simply helped because that is who they are. "Your words mean nothing," someone shouted from the crowd. "You cannot undo the past." "You are right," Vextar said. "I cannot undo what I have done, but I can change what I will do. From this day my fleet serves peace. We will guard trade routes, protect colony worlds, hunt pirates and raiders. We will spend the rest of our long lives trying to repair the damage we caused. Kira stepped forward. She spoke in a voice that carried pride and shame mixed together. I personally led raids on 37 worlds. I took resources, destroyed cities. I did these things because I believed we had no choice. The humans proved me wrong. They showed me there is always another choice. Always another way. So you want forgiveness? A delegate demanded. You want us to forget? No, Vextar said. We want to earn your trust. That will take time, perhaps more time than we have left. But we will try. And we ask that you give humanity a seat on this council. They deserve it. More than we ever did. The debates went on for days. Some species refused to accept the dragon's transformation. They demanded trials, punishments. Others saw an opportunity. If dragons could change, perhaps there was hope for other conflicts in the galaxy. In the end, humanity was granted a seat on the council. June became Earth's first official ambassador to the galaxy. And with him came a special cultural attaché. Mira the girl was now 9 years old. She attended diplomatic functions with her father Day and Commander June. Aliens found her fascinating. This small human child who had touched a dragon and changed the course of history. She answered their questions with simple honesty. She drew pictures for ambassadors. She asked them about their worlds and their families, and slowly attitudes began to shift. Not all dragons accepted the change. Some refused the cure, choosing to die as warriors rather than live as protectors. They left the fleet and disappeared into deep space. Vexter let them go with sadness but understanding. Change was hard, especially after 3,000 years of one way of life, but most stayed. Most chose to transform. Kira became one of the strongest advocates for peace. She worked with June to establish new treaties. She personally delivered supplies to worlds her raids had damaged. When pirates attacked a human colony, she was the first to respond. Her ships destroyed the pirate fleet in minutes, then stayed to help rebuild what had been damaged. Back on the Eternal Dawn, now stationed in orbit around a beautiful green world humanity had claimed as their new home, Captain Hyun watched the news with pride. His small colony ship had changed the galaxy, not through weapons or threats, but through compassion and skill. Dr. Yuna received offers from hundreds of species. They wanted her help with their medical problems. She formed a research team with scientists from 20 different worlds. Together, they began working on cures for diseases that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. One evening, Vextar landed on the new human colony world. He had visited often since the cure. Mira ran out to meet him as always. She was getting taller now, though still tiny compared to him. I brought you something, Vextar said. He opened one massive claw. Inside was a small crystal. It glowed with soft blue light. This was my daughter's. Sierra kept it with her always. I want you to have it. Mira took the crystal carefully. It was warm in her hands. Thank you. I will keep it safe. I know you will, Vextar said. You have a good heart, small Mira. You saw past my scales and my weapons. You saw someone who needed help. That is a rare gift. My daddy says everyone needs help sometimes, Mira replied. Even big, strong dragons, Vextar laughed. That grinding, rumbling sound that was becoming more common now, more genuine. Your daddy is very wise. Day walked up to join them. He had been promoted to Chief of Colonial Engineering. He put a hand on his daughter's shoulder and looked up at the massive dragon. We received word today, Day said. The Council has approved the Joint Defense Treaty. Human ships will train alongside dragon vessels. We will protect the trade routes together. Good, Vextar said. We have much to teach each other. Your species fights with strategy and cleverness. Mine fights with strength and experience. Together we will be formidable. Not to conquer, Day said firmly. No, Vextar agreed. Never again to conquer. To protect, there is a difference. A small child taught me that. He looked down at Mira. She smiled up at him, holding the crystal carefully. In that moment, Vextar felt something he thought he would never feel again. He felt peace. True peace. Not the peace of an ended war, but the peace of a healed soul. The galaxy watched as humans and dragons began to work together. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges were arranged. Dragon Young, born for the first time in centuries thanks to the cure, played with human children on colony worlds. It was a sight no one had ever expected to see. And through it all, one image remained in everyone's memory. a small human child touching a dragon's muzzle, and the ancient warrior bowing for the first time in ages. It was a symbol, a reminder that compassion could change the universe. That kindness was the strongest weapon, that sometimes the bravest thing was not to fight, but to reach out your hand and ask if someone needed help. 5 years had passed since that first meeting on the gray moon. The galaxy looked different now. Human colonies dotted dozens of star systems. Dragon ships patrolled trade routes with efficiency and honor. Former war worlds bloomed with new settlements where both species lived and worked together. Mira was 13 years old now. She attended the Academy of Xenodiplomacy on the capital world of the Galactic Council. Her classmates came from 30 different species. They studied languages, cultures, conflict resolution, but everyone knew that Mira had learned the most important lesson before any of them. She had learned to see past the surface, to look for pain hidden behind anger. She still met with Vextar regularly. The ancient dragon had transformed completely. He no longer commanded fleets. Instead, he taught. He ran a school on one of the former war worlds where young beings from all species learned history and philosophy. He wanted to make sure the mistakes of the past were never repeated. But today was different. Today brought news that would test everything they had built. The warning came from the outer rim. A new species had appeared. They called themselves the Ravagers. Their ships were massive. Their weapons were devastating, and they attacked without warning or mercy. 3 colonies had already fallen. Hundreds of thousands were dead. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Ambassador June stood in the chamber with representatives from every major species. The mood was tense, afraid. They had grown used to peace. Now war had come again. "We must respond with force," one delegate declared. "Show these Ravagers that we are not weak." "But we do not even know why they attack," another argued. "Perhaps we can negotiate. They killed thousands of my people," a third shouted. "There is no negotiation with such monsters." June listened to the arguments swirl around him. He thought about what Mira had taught them all. Look deeper. See the pain. But how could you see pain in beings who only showed violence? The chamber doors opened. Vextar entered with Kira and a dozen other dragons. The ancient commander looked different now. His scales had brightened. His eyes were clear. He moved with purpose but not aggression. "The Crimson Fleet request permission to engage the Ravagers," Vextar announced. His voice was calm but carried weight. "We will defend the threatened colonies. We will push back their forces. To conquer them?" someone asked nervously. "To protect," Vextar corrected. "To defend those who cannot defend themselves. That is our purpose now. Our promise." The council debated for hours. Finally, they agreed. The Dragon Fleet would engage the Ravagers, but human ships would go with them. It would be a joint operation, the first true test of the alliance. Captain Hyun, now Admiral of the Human Fleet, commanded 15 warships. They met with Vextar's dragon vessels at the edge of the threatened sector. The combined fleet was impressive. Dragon dreadnoughts with their ancient weapons, human frigates with their advanced shields and tactics, and between them, medical ships ready to help anyone who was wounded. Dr. Yuna was on one of those medical ships. She had insisted on coming. "If there are wounded, I can help," she had said. "Dragon, human, or even Ravager, pain is pain. We heal it." The Ravagers came at them like a dark wave. Their ships were ugly things, all sharp angles and exposed weapons. They outnumbered the Allied fleet 3-1. The battle began with a fury that lit up the space around them, but the Alliance held. Dragon ships took the front lines, their thick armor absorbing massive damage. Human vessels darted between them, targeting enemy weapons with precise strikes. Kira led a squadron of dragons in close combat. Her tactics ruthless but controlled. She destroyed weapons but tried to leave ships intact when possible. Hours passed. The battle raged. Finally, the Ravager fleet began to retreat. Their formation broke. They ran. The Allied fleet pursued but did not destroy the fleeing ships. They drove them back, pushed them out of the sector, then stopped. "Why do we not finish them?" one dragon commander asked Vextar over the communication channel. "Because that is what the old me would have done," Vextar replied. "We defended our territory. We protected our people. We showed strength, but we do not pursue fleeing enemies to destroy them. That path leads only to endless war." The fleet returned to the colonies they had defended. The people there cheered and wept with relief. They had expected to die. Instead, dragons and humans had saved them. Working together, fighting together, protecting together. But Yuna noticed something during the cleanup. One Ravager ship had been too damaged to escape. Its crew had abandoned it. Inside, she found records, medical data. She spent days analyzing it. When she finished, she called a meeting. Hyunjun and Vextar all came. Her expression was serious. "The Ravagers are sick," she said without preamble. "They have a genetic condition. It causes constant pain, drives them to aggression. They attack because they are suffering. Always suffering." Silence filled the room. Then Vextar made that grinding laugh sound. But there was no humor in it. Only recognition. "Just like us," he said quietly. "Just like we were. Pain made them into monsters. Can you cure them?" June asked Yuna. She nodded slowly. "I think so. It will take time, research, but yes, I believe I can help them." "Then we send them a message," Hyun decided. "We tell them we can cure them. We offer help instead of war." "They killed thousands," someone protested. "They deserve punishment, not help." Vexitar turned to face the speaker. "I killed millions. Over 3,000 years. Do I deserve only punishment, or did I deserve the chance that small Mira gave me? The chance to be something better than my pain?" The message was sent. It took weeks to get a response. But finally it came. The Ravager fleet wanted to meet. They wanted to talk. They did not trust easily. But pain had taught them that war solved nothing. The meeting was arranged on a neutral station. And this time Mira insisted on coming. She was a student now, not a child. But she understood something the adults sometimes forgot. That compassion was not weakness. It was strength. When the Ravager delegates entered the meeting room, they were massive, even bigger than dragons. Their bodies were covered in thick armor plates. Their faces showed constant tension, pain. Just as Yuna had said, Mira walked up to the lead Ravager. Everyone tensed. Security forces moved closer, but Vexitar held up a claw. He trusted her. He always had. "You're hurting," Mira said simply, looking up at the massive being. "Every moment. Every day. It never stops, does it?" The Ravager stared down at her. Its eyes were like burning coals, but something in them changed, softened, just a little. "No," it said in a grinding voice. "It never stops. We can help," Mira said. "If you let us. We helped the dragons. We can help you too. Why would you help us?" The Ravager demanded. "We attacked you, killed your people." Mira looked back at Vextar. The ancient dragon stood behind her, a living reminder of what compassion could accomplish. Then she looked back at the Ravager. "Because pain makes monsters of all of us," she said. "But healing can make us into something better. Will you let us try?" The negotiations took months. But in the end, the Ravagers accepted. Yuna and her team began working on a cure. And just like with the dragons, it worked. Slowly, carefully, but it worked. 1 year later, Mira stood on a hill overlooking the human colony world. Beside her stood Vextar. His massive body cast a long shadow in the evening light. Above them, dragon ships and Ravager vessels patrolled together, former enemies united by the humans who had shown them both mercy. "Are you still sad sometimes?" Mira asked. It was the same question she had asked 5 years ago. But everything was different now. Vextar was quiet for a long moment. His 3 eyes watched the sunset. Then he rumbled that grinding laugh. But this time it was warm, full of genuine joy. Sometimes he admitted, "I am sad for what was lost. For Sira. For all the years I spent as something I am not. But I am grateful, small Mira. Grateful for what we found. Grateful for you." He lowered his massive head down to her level. She reached up and placed her hand on his muzzle. Just like she had that first day. The gesture that had changed everything. "You are still my best friend," Mira said softly. "And you are mine," Vextar replied. "You taught me to bow. Not in defeat. Not in surrender. But in respect, in love. In gratitude for a second chance I never thought I would receive." Below them, the colony city sparkled with lights. Humans, dragons, and Ravagers lived together now. Children played in the streets without fear. Markets sold goods from 100 worlds. It was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still misunderstandings, but there was also hope. The galaxy had learned something important. That the most powerful force in the universe was not weapons or fear. It was compassion. The simple act of reaching out to someone in pain and offering help instead of judgment. And it had all started with a small human child who touched a dragon's muzzle and asked if he was sad. A child who saw past the monster to the broken soul beneath. A child who offered kindness when everyone else offered only fear. Vextar straightened up to his full height. His wings spread wide, catching the last light of the setting sun. He looked down at Mira with all three eyes. Eyes that had seen millennia of war and pain. But now they saw something different. They saw hope. They saw peace. They saw a future worth living for. And for the first time in ages, the ancient dragon smiled.